Welcome back for another Monday edition of the TA Report. You got your boy Bags along with Nick, JFDI, and we'll be joined shortly by Gautam. GP will be here. He's indisposed at the moment, but that doesn't mean that we can't start jumping in on some discussion here, Nick. I saw you tweeting earlier today about Boeing. I know this was a name that I didn't like for a while, but I gotta say, it looks like it's proving doubters like me a little wrong right now.
Yeah, what a day. I mean, I think the way I'm looking at it, it definitely started to break out last week, and then caught some follow through today. One of the dudes on StockTwits was asking about it. I thought the range, it was just kind of caught in a range between like 215 and like 195.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it looks great. I was a little late to the party. I actually grabbed some today. I think on the short term, real quick, it could easily pop to like 235, kind of the high end of that. Yeah, I think it's heading after 235, 240 pretty quick. Longer term, I think it's going much higher.
Got 21 weeks of range there, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, a name that I didn't like through the chop, but if it doesn't break down, it's got to break out, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
The volume still is a little weak, but there was a little more volume last week, and there's been a little more volume on the green days. So we'll see. But it looks good.
Yeah.
We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about just everything tech still running up.
God, I know.
Regardless of what you're looking at, this is the Qs, and we've been looking at the Qs for quite some time. Like, this is the weekly chart, and RSI is at a 74. Doesn't mean it's going to stop. Overbought can stay overbought, and oversold can stay oversold. But yeah, everything just looks good. You were saying right when we hopped on at first that there was just a bunch of setups. Anything in tech that you're liking right now?
I like on a smaller time frame, I still like LRCX and CLAC, both kind of through their short-term pivot highs. AVGO, if you ignore the wick, had a strong day today too. Like, if you were ignoring the wick and kind of more looking at like 830 is kind of like the pivot high, it took out that on massive volume today. But
which one?
AV Broadcom, AVGO.
Oh, AVGO, yeah.
But CLAC, LRCX, and even AMD, I think are all three ready to, I don't know, rocket ship.
AMD has their big basically it's analyst day. Lisa Sue's going to tout what they're doing in AI as well as in their bigger machines, their bigger computers.
What's that?
It's hang on, I'll tell you exactly what it is. I tweeted about it earlier.
So we've got CPI tomorrow, and then we've got the Fed on Wednesday. Is that?
Yeah, Fed meets tomorrow. J Powell starts talking on Wednesday. Yeah. So you know how those Fed weeks are. Like, it's chop, right?
Yeah.
And then it fakes you out and usually goes the other way.
Yeah, usually that first move is definitely the false move.
First move, false move.
I mean, looking at like this, I mean, the SPY's like, God, it could pull all the way back to like 420, 410 and still look great.
Still be fine.
Yeah. Like,
I mean, you do have a little bit of a gap here in the 420, like 420.
Yeah.
422 up to 423 something. 423s basically. We'll just call it 423s.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be insane to watch these indexes just ride the 20-day all the way into new highs. Oh man, it would be one hated rally, I tell you that.
Well, I know one person is not a hated rally. GP's been chomping at the bit, and I know he'll be ready when he's able to log on to do a couple victory laps. It's been a hell of a run. Tomorrow is AMD's data center and AI event. They caught some upgrades today, even before the event, I think.
Okay.
That's kind of crazy.
A couple of the stuff that I noticed today, Airbnb broke out. Kind of like a short-term daily kind of channel. Like if you're just connecting the two high wicks, pretty decent volume. And then the same, what was the other one that I was watching? Oh, I kind of liked Snow a little bit today.
Yeah, I like Snow too.
I like that it kind of held the 20-day there today. I grabbed I'm in a small position in Snow off of the 20-day. What else today? Yeah, Boeing. Oh, Shop looked freaking amazing today too. Even closed over 65. What I liked about Shop in particular was the volume today was heavier than the volume on that kind of that big sell bar that we had last week.
Yeah. Well, that was the fake out of the week, right? Like,
yeah, no kidding.
There were several charts that put that in.
Apple was one everyone was talking about. And all it's looking like so far is just kind of a piker bar.
Yeah.
But I mean, God,
explain the piker bar for us.
So it's kind of like it's an outside reversal bar. But the thing is, like, the reason I call it a piker bar is because price is still above the 20-day, above the 50-day, above all the major moving averages. And like the reality of like the setup is that if you're long Apple, like you should have been long like 158, 160 at the highest, if not, like if you're like an investor more towards like the low end of the range, like 130s. So like to see a bar like that as highs are getting tested shouldn't have surprised anybody. And I don't think that it warranted any selling if you were if you had entered correctly. Just because I mean you're in 30 points of cushion, 25 points of cushion. Like what? I mean, you should be hoping for some sideways, a little pivot put in up near highs, give you another spot to enter versus just like basically riding the 20-day all the way up into highs.
That's an all-time high close, isn't it, for Apple today? Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're not bulled up, I don't know what you're waiting for at this point.
For everything to go to zero, for the giant collapse, and everything's the perma bear thesis, right?
I mean,
major crash any day now.
What's gonna do it?
I'm not the perma bear, so I can't answer that.
Yeah,
GP is here in the waiting room, joining us momentarily. I don't know, Nick. I don't know what's going to do it. I don't know why people for 8 months or more have been saying we're going to retest or make new lows. I do not understand it.
GP, how you doing, buddy?
All right. Sorry for the delay.
You're okay, GP.
Yeah.
What's up?
We were teeing you up for your victory lap. We were saying, if you haven't been long, what the fuck are you waiting for? Because your perma bear thesis. You've been saying we're testing new lows or testing the low or making a new low for 7 months now.
I know. And what was the first thing we said to start the year? Or maybe the last thing of the first podcast to start the year? You guys remember?
Hit us with it.
Netflix.
The way Netflix goes is the way the market goes.
And Netflix is pretty. Like it's just grinding. It's just doing its thing, just channeling up.
Look at that. Someone drew an ascending wedge.
That was me last week.
Everyone's still calling that channel. I'm like, you guys are just missing it. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Almost every chart pattern on the planet was fully reset on that move down in 2022. And remember, we moved down nearly 38% in the Qs on what was supposed to be a recession, right? And so now you're seeing a lot of reflexive part of the rally when there is no recession. Once we start getting hints, if we get hints, that is, then the rally starts to stall a lot more, right? So, but you're also seeing the distinction between the good stocks and the bad stocks. The bad stocks aren't rallying as much, right? Like Fubo, I keep talking about Fubo. Fubo's might have doubled from the bottom, but it's still like 89 or 95% off the highs, right?
Yeah, but you got the SoFis out there of the world too, who are just running gangbusters right now too, right? Like
running, but nowhere close to all-time highs. Not even.
Oh well, no, yeah.
Not even like a Palantir. All these guys are doing well off the bottom. So congratulations if you got the bottom. But anyone who was holding prior to the 2022 collapse in all these stocks is still hurting quite a bit of pain.
Yep.
So we talked about this market being sideways, right? And we're finally starting to resolve out of the sideways market, and we're pushing higher. And all I can see is everyone still talking about. I knew it was going higher. So I hedged my puts, and I'm like, what?
I'm just going to take these off.
Puts are a hedge, but now you're hedging your puts? What?
Yeah, hedges on hedges.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Whatever your rhyme, whatever your reason for staying conviction in your, I applaud you. I would have been out a long time ago, right?
Yeah,
so,
I'm not going to name any names, but someone I know was telling me we got to get SPY calls for 2 weeks out, and it's going to go higher. And then they basically bought them off the open Friday, sold them really quickly, made a quick 20%, and then it's like, all right, I'm in VIX calls now. And it's like, bro, like, come on, seriously. Well, which way is it going to go? Well, I'm going to get back in those SPY calls. Well, but you're still holding those VIX puts or those VIX calls. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Hedges on hedges here.
It's okay to take cheap speculative hedges that you see something that
this was positioning. This wasn't just hedging.
I mean, like, what I mean is, like, if you see something that the rest of the world doesn't see, then I kind of get it. But literally everyone is talking about the exact same thing you are, right? So the reason the VIX underperformed while the markets got destroyed last year or the last 18 months before this kind of consolidation cycle is because everyone was hedged. Every time we had a drop, they covered their puts, right?
Well, no, it comes back to the crash thesis that Nick and I were just talking about. Was, is it going to crash? It could crash. Anything could crash. Like, anything can happen. A black swan event can happen, and you can take cheap insurance on that and hedge that, right? But that shouldn't be your thesis for the past 7 months and continue to just die on that hill, literally.
Yep.
Like, it's okay to be wrong. It's just not okay to stay wrong. And you call something out of enough times, eventually you're right. But at the same time, like, who has the fortitude to sustain that financially? Not many people.
Yeah. And like if you're looking at charts, right? And I talk about Fubo quite often on like a stock that's it's never going back to 60. Let's be honest, right? You can daydream all you want, but it's never going back. But right, like fine, maybe you're right, and it doesn't, and I'll be so happy for you if it does. You can what a lot of people don't understand is when people win, I'm happy. I'm not miserable. Like,
yeah, no doubt.
Dude, you won. This game is hard enough to be miserable at each other, right? So, I don't get it, but whatever. But outside of Fubo, there's a lot of other charts that were really good companies before the crazy 2020 QE kind of move higher, that aren't recovering. And one of the best examples to me, actually two of the best examples, is Square and PayPal, right? Like these aren't like meme companies. These were solid companies. They're organically growing their business, and they had that, they got caught up in the frenzy like everything else did, but they're not getting accumulated. They're not getting bought a lot here. So like you're also seeing the distinction between the prior good companies and the good companies, like for example, Shop is showing you when management listens to what the market is giving you, and that's, we've walked away from, we talked about this, right? We've walked away from a free money society. So what do you need to do? You need to adjust to that new environment. And Shop's last earning was up 30% because management was like, yep, we got you, we understood, and we know what we have to do. We have to be profitable, we have to show our EPS growth, and potentially even start paying dividends at some point. Not that I think Shop will, but so you're starting to see the distinction between those as well. So it's interesting because even if we have a full-on melt up and then crash like now everyone is predicting, it's not going to be all the stocks. It's not going to be Square. Maybe Square gets a reflexive rally like 30-40%, but I doubt Square goes back to, what was it, 280, 290?
I actually really like Square. I think it's actually heading back to 150, 140 actually is where I think it's kind of ultimately going.
It's possible. But it's flagging here. It's not in a bad position, but 150 is going to be hard.
Yeah.
While almost all the companies that have been showing good results, like let's talk about Apple, took out all-time highs. NVIDIA took out all-time highs. There's a lot more closer to all-time highs of the really good and great companies versus the companies like Square and PayPal. I guess that's
I definitely agree.
So like if you asked me 6 months ago, I would have told you that Square is not going back to all-time highs, but Apple can, right? Like I guess that's
yeah
for me here.
And that brings it full circle to, what my thesis had been for so long was like, I'm content to just sit in the Apples and the Microsofts and just wait it out. Right. And it's been hugely profitable for me to be in these names at lower levels and just watch them grind higher. AMD was another name that we talked about before you got on. One of my larger positions. Absolutely fantastic with upgrades today before they have their little data center and AI expo tomorrow. There's just, as Nick said when we first started, there's just a lot of good setups out there right now, and it's hard to be too picky in quality companies.
Yeah, I'm obviously leaning quite bullish, and
get out of town.
As you know, have my own service, right? Like with a couple other partners, and I've been closing some positions, even though the charts look good, because I have a lot of risk on, and all you need is one big rug pull, and it hurts more than you can ever imagine. So, but there's so many setups that I want to be long all of them, but I know on one massive reversal day, like tomorrow could be one of them, with I think CPI is coming out tomorrow.
Yep.
and everyone will claim victory. I told you it was going to get sold off. Okay, it gets sold off. I'm still up nearly 100% on Shop. Good for you. And Tesla. Shall we talk about Tesla? But
Go for it.
Yeah, we've been pounding the table on Tesla, Nick and I, for a couple of months now, and talked about the NVIDIA setup. Right, it's the almost exact same setup, but more powerful because it only retraced to the 50% of the move, not the 61.8. Right, like so it's actually a shallower move. So the move off this was expected, and if you were savvy enough, or if you were smart enough, or if you had joined us at my service. No, I'm sorry, I'm just joking. I'm only kidding. I never plug. You come join us if you want. It's up to you. But it's the IV was cheap, right? We talked about this. The calls were cheap. You could have gotten two August 230 August calls, right? For $2.80.
Wow.
And those are right now sitting at $36. Right? So that's what? That's well over a 1,000% move, and there's still 2 or 3 months left. So it was insanely cheap what they did to the IV, the implied volatility on a lot of options if you want to play. But it was there, man. It stood at that 50% retrace for 3 weeks. And if you didn't get long and now you're looking for a pullback, I'm sorry.
I mean, that's what we were. I mean, before you hopped on, we were like briefly talking about Apple, because I had referred to that kind of sell-off bar last week as a piker bar, and it was like my point was that if you had entered Apple correctly, any type of pull-in other than a complete collapse off of all-time highs should have been expected and welcomed. It's only people that are chasing that, like, it affected in any capacity.
And all you needed to do was to expand to your weekly, right? Because
absolutely.
What did you see happen on the weekly on Friday at 4 p.m.? Apple closed 1 penny higher than its all-time high weekly close. So even on a sell-off of an expected event, Apple always sells off on every event. The last time I remember it not selling off is when they announced earnings split, right? Like, and it just went gangbusters after that. But it sells off on everything. So for it to sell off, look like it's going to die, and then close the week exactly 1 penny higher than the prior week, tells you that the bulls were still in charge.
Yeah.
And so I was talking to one of my team members, and she's a great chartist, and I was like, it didn't fail, right? Like, everyone's like, oh, it failed the breakout. I was like, no, it actually didn't. It closed 1 penny above prior week's high. If it now confirms to the downside, then it's failed. But as of now, that's a higher high on the week. That's all-time high weekly closes. You can look at candles, but if you don't look at context, it's really, it's what I've been seeing on the markets. A lot of people posting, it's like, oh, that's a, what do they call it? Hanging man or whatever it's called, or oh, that's an inverted hammer, or that's a bearish engulfing. I was like, dude, what's happening after these candles? Is there follow through? Is it shallow? Is it wicking? What's happening? And so it just when the markets are in bull mode, people post terrible bull charts, and when they're in bear mode, they post terrible bear charts. So it's just par for the course.
It's just miserable bear theory.
I'm always going.
Bulls are bad too. Like I give as well as I take. You know, you always want it lower so you can buy and then never do, and you always want, you know, another dollar higher, right? Like, I mean, there's miserable people both ways.
And there's a lot of stuff to be miserable about, but wait till it actually reflects in the price action, right? I think that should be your big takeaway over the last couple of years, right? is what is like, even in 2020, everyone's like, it can't get past 20, what was it, 2,700 back then or whatever it was. And then it takes out 2,700. Okay, you were wrong there. And then it takes out 2,800. Okay, you were wrong there. It takes out 2,900. Okay, that's the bear market. It's going to die now. People are going to die from COVID. End of civilization. Dude, the price action is telling you none of that stuff is going to happen. And look at that. 3 years later, civilization did not die.
Nope.
We started off actually, GP, with a name that I've hated for a long time, but is finally breaking out, Boeing. I know you brought up Boeing 2 weeks ago and was like, you watch out for Boeing. And where are we now? Breaking out of a range?
Yup. It's the great rotation, right? Like you had, what was it, 5-6 months of consolidation in Boeing, while all the other like mega caps and stuff were doing well, and now it's starting to participate, which is why the breadth conversation never made any sense to me. Like, these are consolidating, right? And Boeing diluted the hell out of their shares, got rid of their dividend, right? Like they did all the things you don't want to do as a public company, and they're starting to move higher after consolidation.
Yeah, I think that weekly looks so good.
Dude, it looks phenomenal. This one pisses me off because Boeing always makes me nervous with their stupid news crap. 4 or 5 days ago, they came out with that news and it tagged 200, and it shook me out. I had July calls and I was like, I'm just gonna let this sit, because dude, July calls were insanely cheap because no one thought it was gonna go. And then it had that kind of wick down and then got bought up immediately, and I was like, oh man, I just got played. So even when you have your thesis right, doesn't mean you always get the
for sure.
Have a successful trade.
Yep.
What's your favorite setups out there right now that you're not currently in? Or like, what are you watching? So
I was in Meta, got out of Meta today, and then they did that stupid last hour of let's just pump everything. So that was kind of annoying, but I like Meta here, but I'm not in it anymore. I like Home Depot. I'm looking at rotational names, Nick, Bags,
Sure.
because I think tech is going to be more of a grind than a push higher crazy. Obviously, Tesla, we've already talked about.
Well, it's similar to you're liking Intel better than AMD right now, right? It's not that AMD hasn't had its run; it's Intel's catching up. So some of these names, the Boeings, the Home Depots, they might have a short-term, bigger run-up.
Yeah. And there's a lot of FU candles in a lot of these charts these days. I don't know if you guys have noticed that, as you were talking about the Apple candle, Nick. What'd you call it?
I call it a piker bar. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's kind of an outside reversal, but it's like at all-time highs.
Yeah.
And like, again, the only people that got wicked out of it were people that chased it somewhere along the last 2-3 months.
Yep. And I think CRM had one of those today, Salesforce.
Yeah.
It was chilling, right? If you go to the 5-minute, this was doing really well all day, and then some weird AI, let me shake everyone out candle, right?
Yeah, CRM.
But this, like, if you're looking at CRM calls, if you're looking at August calls, they're pretty cheap in CRM, right? For this to play out. That's the one thing I've been finding, except for Tesla. As soon as Tesla started moving, the IV went through the absolute roof. But a lot of names are still pretty cheap if you go further, like a couple of months out. So
I mean, and look where it stopped out today, just above where it closed the day after earnings. So this was your earnings gap right here. And look where it's sitting, right there on the 9, right there above that closing candle the following Thursday or Friday. Except Friday.
Yeah.
Thursday.
This is probably one of the most kind of technically sound markets I've seen in quite some time. There's a lot of FU candles, but they're holding where they're supposed to. So it's premium collection modes or shakeouts or piker mode or whatever you want to call it, right? But they're kind of holding.
Profit taking.
Yeah, profit taking. Everyone's trying to short NVIDIA, and this mofo is sitting on a 3-week tight can slim.
Yeah,
Gap up.
NVIDIA's definitely going.
Dude, gap up. I'm like, oh, let me buy some puts. No, bro. Like, I hope it works out for you, but this is as, I guess, technically sound of a kind of after a massive move up, a 3-week tight pattern is a pretty monster pattern.
Yeah.
Well, look at the rest of semis, right? Like,
Yeah.
It's just SMH.
Yeah, same thing, right? It's the 3-week tights and they're breaking out, and NVIDIA hasn't broken out yet, right? It's got to clear 420 to break out. So you're still $25 underneath their all-time highs here for this to work out. And usually 3-week tight candles result in 5-10% moves after it takes out the range. So off of 420, you're probably looking at a move to 460, right? If it breaks out.
In NVIDIA?
Yep.
I mean, I think short term it's going, I think 600 is its magnet.
Yeah, I meant like this week, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah.
You heard it here. YOLO calls for the end of the week, 600 NVIDIA.
I think if you literally had every single dollar of yours in NVIDIA and AMD, I think that you would absolutely crush the year.
Yeah, dude. So I bought this little penny stock last week or 2 weeks ago, and I didn't talk about it here because it's speculative, right? And that's not what. But Vroom, VRM, right? They're a direct competitor to CVNA, Carvana. And this has been a nearly 60% move in 3 or 4 weeks. So there's, and you know how bad. So like,
I hope it goes back to 70 for you.
Yeah, I don't think it will, dude. I'll be long gone. I'll be long gone before that. I almost sold it today. So but if you looked at Vroom, right, it's priced for bankruptcy, so it's a speculative asset, but their earnings are improving, and they're still losing money, so not the greatest stock to own in a non-free market society. But you know what the market cap for this stock was? It was 110 million when I bought it. And they're doing a couple $1 billion a year in like revenue and sales. So if they get their stuff together, this has so much potential. So, and then the director went and bought 500,000 shares at 76 cents. So that helped too.
Vroom.
Yeah.
We've talked about Tesla, and you brought up Meta. Kathy Wood sold 400,000 shares of Tesla today and bought Meta with it.
Really?
Interesting.
That's interesting.
That is interesting.
And I know we don't really track Kathy's trades that much, but that's interesting.
I
think she's doing like she sold NVIDIA too early.
Yeah. But she's still buying TDOC. So if you're still buying TDOC, you've lost all respect.
Well, no, what I'm like, yes, TDOC is its own thing, but even I think this chart is prepping for a breakout. The non-Elon stan of our quorum here, and Meta looks way overextended, right? Like it still looks good. Don't get me wrong. Like it still got some pop in it. But would I rather have 400,000 more shares of Tesla, or would I rather swing that into Meta? Personally, I would probably keep it in Tesla. Personally.
Yeah, I think she also has like the 10% allocation, so it's a possibility.
So it might have been a forced sell. Yeah, okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
Whatever her rules are. So I don't really follow it as much as I used to. But
I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, but a 50% move in Tesla in 4 or 5 weeks probably took her allocation over the 10% mark. So
Yeah.
she probably was like, I gotta repurpose my risk into TDOC. My bad. Some of the stuff that she buys, I just don't understand. I have a lot of respect for her.
I haven't been following her too much.
I still get her daily emails. I still look through them because it's always good to have all the knowledge in front of you. But
I think
I have a ton of respect for her to continue fighting in an industry where you're the utmost minority, right? So
yeah.
I still can't understand the TDOC buys, but whatever.
What do you?
Go ahead, Nick.
I was gonna say, I'm kind of at a loss with the crypto stuff. What are your thoughts on Bitcoin and Ethereum?
I think it's alt season.
Yeah.
Personally, you had this massive wick down over the weekend in a lot of alts. Robinhood got rid of like 3 alts. You had a lot of stuff, and they're not collapsing, so it's just stuff to pay attention to, right? Like they had the wicks down, but they're holding up. They're doing pretty well.
Bitcoin dominance would suggest otherwise. I think it's Bitcoin and Ethereum season, personally. I think that alt season will come, but I don't think we're there yet. I do think that everything that we heard last week from the SEC and every pundit that might have come across the television screen saying, get rid of your altcoins. I do think that's the fear to shake people out of positions. I think there are certain alts that I like owning and I'm comfortable holding. But as a general rule, altcoins are the most risky and the most speculative assets of them all. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't run 1,000% for you. That's awesome. But I look at it like I look at quality companies, right? I'm Apple and Microsoft are 2 of my larger positions, along with Amazon. Bitcoin and Ethereum are going to remain my biggest positions in the crypto space, but I'm still going to dabble elsewhere. I think nothing's lost, Nick. If you look at the weekly, I've got the weekly up now. Like nothing's lost. You're still hanging on to all your EMAs. It's rolled over the 9 a little bit. I mean, even if it came down into the 24s,
I mean, that's just kind of on the daily
world from a chart perspective.
Kind of thinking that's what it was going to test. The 200-day is right there at 20, 23 and a half also.
Yeah. I mean, that wouldn't be the end of the world.
Yeah.
For it to do that at all, just from a chart perspective, I don't think. So it has been unique for me to see, the depegging of the markets. We've been doing this long enough. I would have a part where I would say, well, crypto's leading or the market's leading, crypto's going to follow.
Right.
I've kind of broken that philosophy. I don't see crypto following anything that the market's doing right now.
I think if the markets continue pushing here and they start to consolidate towards like the end of June, you start to see speculative money start hitting. Why I think alt season is going to happen is because alts are the only things that I know that can go 10,000% in 5 minutes, right? Like, and so people are going to start chasing when equities start consolidating, that they're going to start chasing those things. So it's more of like,
you really think that that's the environment that we're in for crypto, though? I mean, you know me, I'm as pro crypto as they come, but I just don't know that we're in the environment to have that kind of liquidity coming into altcoins.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, Bags. It's just a kind of a cycle conversation for me. I could wholeheartedly be wrong. I don't focus like I probably focus maybe a couple percent of my time allotment a week towards crypto. So it's just
and any of the meme coins, any of the the coins that all of a sudden come rocket or whatever they might come up with next week. I mean, any of those can burst, and you can never really. It's a real challenge to spend a lot of time tracking all those down. But yeah, I mean, something like that could obviously blow up at any minute and go higher. But for me,
take a look at Litecoin, right? Litecoin is an altcoin, and it's actually personally, I think it's a stronger chart than Bitcoin and Ethereum.
I just got an email from TradeStation that they're going to stop support of a lot of these altcoins.
Yeah, so you have money that's also consolidating into the altcoins that are remaining, right? So unless everyone's just going to pull all their money out of crypto, I don't think that's going to happen. So you're gonna, it's just what I think. I think especially with like this weekend's kind of nasty bars down and a lot of the altcoin names was like your piker bar, Nick.
Sure.
That's what it feels like to me, but could be wrong.
So beginning July 31st, you'll no longer be able to trade Aave, Bitcoin Cash, Chainlink, Compound, Litecoin Maker, or Shiba Inu on TradeStation. Bitcoin, Ethereum, and USD Coin will be the only three that you'll be able to trade on TradeStation. Now, TradeStation is not a huge crypto trading platform, but I do think it's worth understanding and knowing.
Yeah.
What do we let Nick? Got any more crypto you want to talk?
Oh no, I was just curious what your thoughts were on those. I was gonna say
if we tested the 200-day on Bitcoin, I might take a few sats.
Yeah.
It's
hard to pinpoint one chart now to really like in equities in general. There's a lot to like.
Yeah.
And usually when it's a lot to like, the rug pull is upon us, right? Kind of reset the charts, but it's possible that there is no rug pull, right? And it can continue till end of OPEX or end of quarter or whatever it is. But that doesn't mean crash either, guys. It just means that we need to consolidate, right? Like,
no, it totally means crash, GP.
So can someone please explain to me why oil keeps dying, yet XLE just refuses to die? What is this depegging?
I don't know. We need to get Monkey Banana Genius on the show so you and he can go toe to toe.
Like I think it's flow. I personally think it's flow. Because I always see every time it drops like 50 cents, all the call buyers are coming out hardcore in the name. And oil is what, 67 now, right? And it's dangerous.
They're talking about filling the strategic reserve back up,
dude. And it's dangerously close to just having the bottom drop out here, right? Like it is.
I mean, we're on the weekly 200, sitting right on the weekly 200.
Yep.
Yeah, I GP, you know me. You and I've been singing this same song for months.
But they just refuse to let this XLE die, and I don't understand. Like why are you buying Exxon here when oil continues to look like this, right? Like I understand that's still profitable, but it's kind of
still doesn't look like a good chart.
Nope.
I mean, it could just be range bound.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening, right? So I can't argue that. I mean, but to me, it still feels like it's just setting up for that waterfall collapse.
Yeah,
it could bear flag to the depths of hell.
Yeah.
I like EEM right now. I think this is one of the better charts out there. Emerging markets. I like it a lot, actually.
Which one? EM?
I haven't looked at it.
EM.
Or aren't they all already at like all-time highs?
EEM, no.
No, that's all the like the European countries.
No, this is emerging.
Yeah, I'm saying France, Germany, aren't they all at like all-time highs?
Oh, I don't check up on the FTSE all the time.
Yeah, and we're like the only ones who aren't, right, in the first world nations. So that's always an intriguing thought in the back of your head.
I think EEM looks better than FXI.
Yeah, China.
And you guys know I've been in and out of the China trade quite a bit for the last month.
Gosh, man, it just refuses to go. Every time it starts to look good, they just punch you in the face. It's pretty impressive, I gotta say.
How about some Amazon? We haven't talked about Amazon today. We talked about other big techs.
Amazon looks great.
I think so too, Nick.
Amazon looks great, but it refuses to have like the Amazon type moves that it used to, right? So to me, it's own, not trade. Yeah, you'll get lucky here and there, but there's a lot of FU bars and not enough movement. You know, today had a $3 move or whatever it was, but tomorrow we'll have a $3 move down, right? It's been happening quite often. So I've just I just own it. And
I mean,
excuse me.
It had this big down bar, right? And then we've had 3 inside candles so far on the daily. I don't know. When I look at smaller time frames, like I like the look of it.
I love the weekly.
Yeah, and then I look at the long time frame, it's like a bit of a doji candle on last week's. But as we've talked about, that's just indecision, right? Like that doesn't mean good or bad. And so far the reaction's been good today. 2.5% for a day in Amazon's pretty good. Pretty solid.
Yeah, it's a great day, but then it'll have a 2.5% move down next week tomorrow, and it's just like, what are you doing, right? Like, it's just kind of frustrating. So it's on like it's on the swing trade, not short term trade.
Well, I mean, everything could get reset on Wednesday. I mean,
yeah,
if we're
you
just
know what
being
looks
honest,
great?
right?
You know what looks great?
The XCM.
Small caps.
Oh,
4-day flag right at resistance. It's an inside candle on the weekly. It's just.
How about that call though, Nick? I should have bought those 179s when it came in.
Dude, I was tweeting you, man.
I know.
Yes.
And I even said lower, right? I wasn't going to buy 179, even though I set the alert. I said lower. And I'll be John Brown if we didn't get 177.45. That was a good move, though.
Yeah.
From bottom to where it is now, that's 5% in a few days. That's a strong move.
Yeah, and it's just consolidating here, right? Like there's a big volume breakout, small volume consolidation. Like this is what you want to see in charts, right? That are getting ready to move higher. This small caps are going to be at all-time highs, and people are still going to be bitching about regional bank failures.
Are we still talking about bank failures?
Everyone on Twitter is, but
I mean,
you know the age-old theory: what does not break down
has to
breaks
break out. Yeah.
How many attempts did small caps have at breaking that breakaway gap from 2020? And all it did was consolidate sideways for the last year and a half. Even the 3 biggest bank failures couldn't bring down the small caps. XBI took a dump. Like how much more do you need to see in terms of evidence and still not break support?
XBI's retested the breakout.
Yeah, but do you remember us talking about that breakdown?
Yeah. You just said XBI and I went squirrel.
Yeah. It gave you that piker bar and then just said, okay, that's enough.
Yeah.
We do have a couple questions. Roblox or shop? Well, we talked about shop a little bit already. Phenomenal. I mean, you had, what is that, 5 weeks of flagging to today.
Yep.
So you're on the verge of a range breakout of those 5 weeks. So looks awesome. Roblox to me, not showing the strength I would like for it to see, but that usually means it's probably closer to a bottom, knowing my luck. I have no position, but I like it.
So Roblox releases their monthly like gaming information and stuff like that on usually like the 14th or 15th of the month. So if you look back at like the daily chart in Roblox, every month at the 14th or 15th, there's either a big gap up or a big gap down. So it's been kind of sideways going into the June 14th, 15th numbers, which will be mid this week. And it's holding the gap down from the last month. So that's interesting from that perspective. And it's consolidating pretty nicely. There's not a ton of volume here, so I think it'll depend on what those numbers are. I think this is a stock you own for a long time, personally. And there's obviously trades that you can find along the way too. But I like the accumulation I see on the weekly. I love seeing this type of accumulation after the IPO moves are done, right? Which is what that initial first 12 months is about. It breaks out, fails miserably, and the new set of investors start to come in. So seeing the accumulation confirms that new sets of investors are coming in that see a bigger, bigger trajectory from the original VC investors of Roblox. So I like it here. I don't know what it's going to do in the next week or so, but I like this for the long term. So if it goes lower, accumulate. If it goes higher, once it breaks range, stay steady,
I have alerts set at 43 and 48. I don't have a position in it either.
Yeah. And until it takes out 54, 55.
Yeah.
It's in this range.
It's going to like 53s, 54s. It's going there at some point. It
could happen this week. If those numbers come out,
it could happen tomorrow. It could happen Wednesday. It could happen overnight.
There's monster call activity, interest in the 45s, the 50s, and the 60s. So it's possible that it could go this week, and it's possible that it could fail again off of another monthly, whatever, right? So it's got no direction at this point, is my assessment.
A name that I got long in was Rivian. We've talked about it for the past few weeks. I sold some puts and got long because I didn't want to, just wanted to collect some premium. It had a massive little shake this morning, down into like 1360 something. Yeah, 1361. And then closed right back at 14. So I think I still like Rivian. We'll see what it does over the next few weeks, but very similar to what Roblox is doing, I feel like. Not that their companies are similar, but the charts. Could it go down some more? Yep. But I think it's eventually heading higher.
Okay.
Into the 20s.
Yeah, I like Rivian. I think it's the only. I see so many more Rivians on the road. It's insane.
Yeah, Sam. I've seen them all over the place.
Which means they're getting their production issues resolved a bit more.
They're hiring like crazy.
Yep.
I don't know if that's a good thing. It seems like for the past few months, if you were laying off people, your stock price was going higher. But yeah, they've got a lot of job openings.
Your line in the sand is obvious, right? It's 1168 is the low there.
Yep.
But if you want to stop out before that, it's probably that 1260 mark where it's
Yep.
kind of got that inverse head and shoulders. So
Yeah,
can
below
save yourself
1260, your potential inverse head and shoulders is Kaputski.
yeah. And just because something breaks during the day that level but closes above, it doesn't mean it's failed.
That's why I always use the weeklies, GP. So I wouldn't even look at that daily inverse head and shoulders as the head and shoulders. I like the way the weekly looks better. And I would use that as my potential inverse head and shoulders. So as you can see, I have an alert set for $13.
Yep. I like it. I think this is also one of those kind of IPO stories where it got so cheap that if they execute anywhere close to what Elon and Tesla has done, then they're the number 2 player in the game. It's not Ford, it's not GM.
No,
There's too much legacy overhang in those companies. So
I haven't looked at Ford and GM recently.
looks great.
Ford
They're
looks all
breaking
right.
out. They're breaking out based off of Tesla.
Yeah.
GE, Monster. Wait, wasn't it only 5 stocks that are leading the S&P?
That's what they wanted you to believe. GE's been doing this since the last year, this time, basically.
Yep. You know what's looking a lot better, as we talked about as well? Our friend Mickey.
Oh, I haven't watched this in a while.
It held 88, what it had to do.
Yep.
Target doesn't seem to be holding on anything.
Target got downgraded on Friday, but it's still holding 126.
That level. Nah, I can see a false breakdown and then reclaim, right? And then if it does, it's your moment to shine. There was a big
like
risk
for
reversal.
simpatico. That took the words right out of my mouth.
There was a big risk reversal, I think, that went into Target on Friday. Joe Kunkel mentioned it. It was the August 140, 145 call spreads. So it's something to keep on watch here because it broke down last week and it's kind of like stalled, right? So at that 126, 127 level, the breakout area. It doesn't look great though, man.
One thing I like to pay attention to, especially when I'm looking for those things, is you guys know I love RSI, but RSI on a weekly, you can see sort of lows, right?
Yep.
And not too often does it break this 30. And right now it's at 29.51. So doesn't mean it can't go lower. Like it went lower right here and then made a new low, right? But then it was off to the races. This was your shakeout, right? Right here.
Mm-hmm.
This is 2017. So here's your RSI low, and then here's your price action shakeout, and then it's off to the races.
Yeah, I think it's definitely time to start looking at names that aren't big tech. Target is one of them to see if you can find
Cat and DE.
Huh?
Oh, sorry, I was going to say Cat and DE both have been looking good, shaping up.
Did you look at FedEx? Really FedEx looks good too.
Oh yeah, it does.
FDX.
Yeah, buddy. Oh.
Right, that's a nice consolidation flag.
UPS looks horrible compared to FedEx.
Yeah, no doubt.
You know, Airbnb looks great.
Airbnb DXCM broke out today.
Yeah, so
ooh, the transports look great.
We're probably at the point where there's so much that looks good that it's time to make it fail.
I like FDX quite a bit. I'm gonna put that on my. Yeah, I'm gonna set alerts at. Yeah,
I think
I really like the way the transports look.
focus on a lot of the Dow names and a lot of the transport names in general. They're looking a lot better and coming out, and they're not overextended. So if this is a rotational bull market, then those are the names that doesn't mean they're going to sell off Apple to buy FedEx. It means that Apple will not rise as much as FedEx.
Yes. Important clarification.
Yeah. Doesn't mean that it all can't go up. It just means that Apple may only go up 5%, where FedEx may go up 25%, right? Whatever the percentages are. So just keep that in mind.
Roku finally made a move for you, GP.
I did. It did. It shook me out as well. So let's not talk about it this sort of thing.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But that's okay, dude. Tesla more than made up for all of that stuff. So.
It's all perspective.
Yeah.
Breaking news before we end the pod. Pat Sajak will step down next year at Wheel of Fortune.
Isn't he like 240?
After 40 years.
40 years. Okay.
40 years on the job. All right. What do we like? Either what you like or what you don't like. Go, Nick.
DXCM, Shop, Airbnb, and Boeing, and Snow actually are kind of like.
Dexcom looks pretty good. We haven't looked at Exact Sciences in a minute either.
Oh yeah, the XS look.
Good.
It grinds. Yeah, it's a grinder.
All right, so Dexcom, GP.
Intel.
Sticking with the old Intel. Pour salt in my eye.
Inside week and up.
It looks really good.
Yeah, and on volume. Also Netflix just starting the move, not ending the move. There's just too much. What I don't like is really
Gold.
Huh?
Gold.
I actually haven't looked at gold, but it doesn't. It's too crowded, Nick. We've been talking about this for a while. It's just too crowded.
I mean, it's literally setting up for a move directly to that 170 or one. What were you saying? 160?
Yeah, 160-ish is what I see coming.
Sure.
I obviously don't like oil. I think oil looks like it's about to collapse. Which I'm sure will incite the panic in the markets if it does collapse for temporary shakeouts. Dollar looks like it's rejecting as well. There's a lot of stuff. What I would like to see, to be honest, is TLT behave better, along with junk and high yield growth and a few of those names. I think that would help in confirmation a lot of what I'm seeing, because they did confirm earlier than this year, and then now they've been kind of lagging. So I'd like to see those start participating a bit more.
I already mentioned emerging markets. EEM started a position on that on Friday, and I like Asana. We keep talking about these catch-up trades. This isn't going back to $140 anytime soon, but that doesn't mean it can't go back to $40.
Yep. That CEO bought so many shares.
Oh my God. dude is going to be printing money if it ever gets back up in to the 50s, 60s, 70s. Yep. Hey guys, thanks. As always, appreciate you being here. We're getting used to our new Monday schedule, but we're going to try to do these up more often on Monday. We're all just going through some things on during the summertime of our personal lives. So, but bear with us. We'll be back right now, tentatively for next Monday. We're going to try to keep it on Mondays as often as we can. But GP, thanks for showing up. Your tardy excuse is valid. And Nick, hey, thanks for jumping on early and
Heck yeah.
Giving me a few more minutes of time. But thanks for everybody for showing up tonight. Please like, comment, subscribe. We appreciate that more than you know. It helps us in a lot of ways. So if you can do that, if you're in the chat and you can hear my voice, that would be awesome. But appreciate you guys, and we will see you